Mm-hmm.
So I like to start with this photo because people are wondering what a real forest fire looks like.
Yeah.
People in the city have no clue. This is common for a horrific firestorm. This is what's left. They all look like this. There's nothing left. Perhaps this was a year or two before because the plant life's growing back already. But it burns the twigs, the needles, the branches, even the trees will burn down, sometimes to a low stump or even a hole in the ground. This is what a common one looks like to me. Not like this one. This is there'll be some photographs in my showing here that are from the air. None of those are mine. They're all from various people. I just borrow them off the internet. This was the big Coffee Park fire in Santa Rosa in 2017, where 4,700 homes were turned to white ash. Incidentally, when I get to these locations, it's rare I find any blackened wood. Normal house fire, put them out. There's always a degree of black and carbon. And here, no. I've been to a lot of aftermaths now, and none of them had a house that had any, well, it was almost all white. Rare to find black.
Okay, why is that? Why is everything reduced to white ash versus?
Well, I'm going to have to say it's because of the extreme heat, but that's my educated guess. It's a different kind of flame. To me, these are microwave-based flames. It's in that arena. I don't know the composition of these flames, but they don't work very well on organic material. The organic material dries out, turns a light shade of green, maybe even brown, but it never really burns up like a normal forest fire, unless it's in really close proximity to any metal or even water, like a creek, riparian corridors. I've noticed those trees will be decimated also. And I believe that's just the water is a conduit for these electrical weaponry, for lack of a better term. I mean, here's Santa Rosa. This was a firestorm. They told the public the fire was moving 8 or 9 football fields a minute. And look at the trees. Why aren't they missing along with the houses? Many of these are pine family relatives. Eucalyptus against that road there, or whatever that is, against the road. Those are eucalyptus back there, the round ones. Those are so flammable. A cigarette lighter in your hand can light those on fire. A green leaf, light them right on fire. And I've not seen that in all the aftermaths. I don't find eucalyptus trees burned up. That's some strange.
Is that why in Maui the boats? Is that why you think all the boats burned on the water?
Yes, whoever's directing these weapons, they might go to the right or left farther than they need to or whatever. But that's what I believe got the boats. I don't believe flying ashes went out there and lit these boats on fire. I believe there's a lot of metals on the boats, and that's actually what was combusting, the reaction that the microwave technology has on the metals, whether they're ferrous or not. I don't believe they're flying an ember story at all.
Yeah.
This is another one of Coffee Park, and you just take a good look. Show me the burned trees. Show me the forest fire. Incidentally, most news channels are deleting the word forest now. They just call them wildfires.
Right.
Right.
Oh my gosh. But this is the first one I ever saw 7 years ago. And the first thing I saw is, well, why are these trees like this? I was going to hike up there in one of the hills, and this came up on my Google Images. Showed my brother, we talked about it, and nothing made sense. So I went up there 2 months later, and my eyes fell out of my head. Nothing was normal. I was up there 8 hours for a good year.
Santa Rosa right here too, right? Santa Rosa.
What's that?
Is this Santa Rosa right here?
Yes, Santa Rosa, the Coffee Park area, a big development.
Okay.
Somewhere in the next 6 months or a year, I finally found a video where somebody saw what I did. That's John Lord, the fire captain, and Matt Dakin. They analyzed Paradise 3 different times and did 5 videos with Shelley. All 3 are friends of mine now. And sadly, we lost John Lord about 2 years ago. Various problems with his health. 2 great people. Together, they have 60 combined years of fire service, both fire captains. Yeah, and that's 7 years ago. So I started studying materials. What are the melting points of all these materials? And I saw auto glass approximately melts out at 2,500 degrees. And that's to start melting. To actually flow like this and go down on the street or inside the car, perhaps it goes up higher to 2,700. Not sure.
Yes.
The 2 fire captains told me in their combined 60 years, they've never, ever seen a window melt out. Incidentally, every fire I've been to, all these 120 trips, not one window has been intact. Every single one has melted out, no exceptions. Same with the aluminum rims or alloy rims. They melt out at 1221 degrees and perhaps more to flow down the street. I have this piece at home, and I think they were a stack of aluminum or alloy rims, probably two in this one because I can barely lift it. Kind of a pretty grotesque looking thing.
Yeah.
These things will flow 20 or 30 feet from a car when there's nothing on the ground to keep them melting. That's a high temperature, but they keep flowing right across the dirt. Amazing. And every aluminum and alloy rim I've seen, without exception, they've all been melted to some degree.
Is it possible that maybe the ground is also causing the melting, or you think it's the actual metal itself that's being?
The ground itself, I think the ground would be more fused everywhere, and I would have seen more signs of that because there are metals present in the parent soil itself. You know, it's like miners. They start digging up and they can find all the different elements in a cup of soil, you know. But I think you'd have to have higher amounts of one of the metals in the soil, you know, a deposit, if you will, where it might fuse and turn into a melted puddle in the ground. I think there's not enough of it in one area.
Right.
So who knows? This is the Kincaid fire aftermath, where they burned a 20,000 square foot winery to the ground and left the metal roof and the rock walls. It was a half mile away from the fire. The fire was over on the mountainside. This building is in the middle of a vineyard. There's nothing there to burn. And around the perimeter, I found these homes and cars and such. You'll notice any of the photos I took, the trees didn't burn. It doesn't matter what species.
Mhm.
And there's something else, the door handles. Can you explain why the door handles are always missing?
Yeah, they're always melted out and just gone. I'm not sure of their composition, whether a type of metal. They must be a light gauge of metal, but I don't know what they are. They're always missing. I've never even seen where they go. I think they're
Right.
just, I don't know, maybe drip on the ground into a tiny puddle, or they just disappear. These weapons are very powerful. You can't even tell what this car was. Looks like a T-top.
Yeah, that's about all you can tell.
Just amazing what's going on. And everywhere in the background, the forest didn't burn. And these are valley oaks back here. Took Deborah Tavares. I always refer to her as the great Deborah Tavares. Took her
Yes.
to the aftermath with her husband Lou that photographs everything. And also my friend Matt Dakin. A couple of houses here and a metal shop in the back, just gone. The forest is primarily valley oak, blue oak, and California bay, which is a very combustible leaf. I can light them on fire again with a cigarette lighter. They didn't burn. Boy, this was a terrible one. There's a bay tree right there. The bottoms will always be burned right at ground level. No reason for that. Grass couldn't do that. You have to
Right.
have a lot of flames to do that. Now they're being cooked right where they're at. This was an entire bay forest, and I couldn't find one leaf burned. And somehow the leaves turned black. You notice the bottoms of these little suckers here, they're black.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's a slow cook or what, but I showed my kids on a little barbecue, we're gonna do some hot dogs, and I went down and made a stick for marshmallows because these have straight sticks. We pulled off 10 or 20 leaves, made our stick, took the leaves over, put them in the barbecue, and I said, stand back. In seconds, the whole thing went up. That's what bays do. Very flammable oils. Almost every tree here is a bay. They didn't burn, but the ground did. Flames everywhere. They couldn't ignite a bay tree? Whew. My eyes fall out of my head every time I see these pictures. This is the car fire. I don't remember how many years ago, 5 or 6, out of Redding, California. It was a large fire. I can't tell the species of all these. Some are eucalyptus, perhaps the rest are oaks. Even in the grass fire, they're hot enough to turn trees brown for at least 20 feet in the air. Didn't happen that day. Houses and outbuildings here are burned to white ash again. Trees might be dead, but they're just a light shade of green. To me, they're a vegetable in the microwave being cooked, sucking the water out of them. That's just my idea. And
Right.
it's only a grass fire here. You can tell this was just grass, and it might have even been kept up with a tractor, lawnmowers, weed eaters, whatever. And they took all these buildings away.
So those were homes where these
Homes on the left, and in the background, possibly it's a ranch with a few outbuildings and a home to your left. Not sure. Telephone poles always burn at the bottom. A lot of times they're just hanging, like in Paradise. They're hanging from the wires. Telephone poles are not in brush. They're in gravel, cement, side of the road. There's not much around them. Yet every time I see them, they're hanging or burned at the bottom.
We saw that in Maui too. Those are the
Yeah,
first things to go, the power
yeah,
lines.
yeah. This is back to that Kincaid fire. Finding out many trees are cooking from the inside out. These were probably hanging over the road, and one of the crews came out and said, all right, we got to get rid of it. This one does have a small opening, but most, they're burned on the inside, and there's no hole to get a flame in there. And the outside's okay. You look down below, it's not even black.
Right. That's like backwards.
Usually I say, everything that should burn in these fires doesn't, and everything that shouldn't burn does. It is backward.
Right.
Everything's backward.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the species is, they'll be burned from the inside out. Generally, the ones that hold the most water, and I mean really, really liquidy water. The extreme waters are the water lovers are the worst, but the oaks, they hold a ton of water when I cut them down. Water will spurt up 1 inch out of the trunk. Well, water in a microwave heats up faster than chili. And the pines are doing the same thing, but at a slower rate. They're more combustible. The sap will ignite at 193 degrees. And the pines aren't burning. This was a split rail fence in the Kincaid fire that somebody built. These were pretty tall, 7, 8 feet, kind of a homemade thing. The only place they burn is at the ground and wherever the metals were. The backside of this is burned because of the T-post they hammer in the ground. But I got the nails. I find this everywhere.
Yeah, I've seen this many times.
The minute I see it, there we go. What fire does that? A normal fire would burn the post from the bottom up, not skip spots. No, they favor the metals, of course.
Right.
And those are elm leaves on the ground. I can usually tell a plant the minute I see it. These all come from various fires. I just had to show how many of these I see. I've got over 1,000 photos, easily. Whether they're painted or not, the same thing happens. Guardrails. This is just one of the better ones. The ground burned, and in a guardrail, there's nothing under them. You're lucky to even find them in grass. It's gravel, it's dirt. There's nothing there to warrant this kind of burn. No way. And especially around a bolt. That one's not mine. And they want to say it's a lightning strike. I've seen plenty of lightning strikes in the High Sierra. They hit the tree, go right to the ground. Sometimes they go out. They're so instantaneous. Or they're on fire. They don't cook from the inside out. That one's on the media. I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, we had the entire San Francisco ridge lines on fire, every side of the bay. This was the Mount Hamilton or Diablo Range from Livermore, California, down to Pacheco Pass, and most of the range east and west from San Jose to Tracy. They really burned the whole range. These posts, this one in particular, this is 6 months later, I guess. Spring has already passed. It's either May or June. Nothing regenerated under it. No weeds, no grass, no tubers, bulbs, rhizomes, rootstocks, corms, no underground seed structures of any kind. How did that happen? I believe that pole got so hot it sterilized the soil. And that's just a guess. A few were like that, others weren't. And so, I don't know, some get hotter than others. But that's amazing because seeds can be 3-4 inches in the dirt and wait years before they come up. The same with your rootstocks. A lot to say about this. This is your big one from Berryessa. I can't remember what they call this. It was 70 lightning strikes. They merged them all together and they burned from Highway 80, Vacaville, all the way to Calistoga. It's an hour's drive. This is Fremont Cottonwood. You've probably heard me talk about this. To me, it's the largest water holding capacity in the whole Western United States. Nothing beats it. It's in the willow family, king of the willow family. They can easily be 4 and 6 feet in diameter. And there's one in Carson City, Nevada, probably 15 feet through. They have to be in a spring, lake, creek, riverbank. They have to have those roots going right in the water or they won't get very big. This thing was about 4 feet in diameter in a spring. It fell over, burned from the inside out, and not one leaf burned.
I got reports that a week after the roots were still like coals in the ground.
That's
and
scary.
I was told that's what happens.
Not to this guy. This is an extreme water lover. And there's nothing flammable about it except the leaves if they're dead. That would be your pine family, mostly, or eucalyptus or bay to burn like that. But this guy, no way. And this was a healthy one. I could tell. Looks like lightning hit it for an hour. I never seen anything like it. So the willow family with the cottonwoods, poplars, and aspen at high altitudes. It's a direct relative of this. I won't have a picture of that aspen, but the Caldor fire that went to South Shore Tahoe, that area, between Highway 50 and 88, the Caldor fire, where they put a father and son in jail, that reported the fire.
Oh, wow.
Up there was aspen in a couple high subalpine areas, and I got out and analyzed them. A few were cut, a few broke. They burned internally again. This is 8,000 feet. You don't see fires up there. It's so rare you wouldn't believe it.
It's cold. It's
They-
consistently cold, right?
That's right. Your temperature's low. The combustibility rates, there's no grass like this one. This is Isleton. It's a little community with, I don't know how many mobile homes. It's on the confluence of the Sacramento and Mokelumne River. And it was burning, I think, 3 years ago. And I thought, I'm going to go up and take a look. Hour drive, I get up there and the firemen were there, but they weren't keeping people out. There was even little flames out here. This was a mulberry, a direct, well, mulberries and fig trees, same family, both have white juice, a ton of water. I never seen like this. The bark flew off. It burned right down the middle. And they were in lawns because all the coaches had these mulberries for shade. The lawn's gone on this one. It just looks like lightning hit it for an hour or something. I've never seen like it. Holds a ton of water. When you cut them down, careful which way you're holding your chainsaw. You know, when you slant cut, it'll drip all over you, soak your pants. But here, and it wasn't a dead tree if they try to pull that, say it was all rotten and hollow. Same
Like you
place.
say, a mobile park. I feel like I
Yep.
hear a lot of mobile parks being burned. Have you noticed that?
That's right. They're targeting the poorest of people that don't have the assets to rebuild.
Mm.
Generally, they're older. A lot of them are 55 years old and more, those communities. And what do they have to do? They've lost everything. They have to go back to the city and live in a stack and pack, rent a one-bedroom place, and maybe go back to work. Paradise had 10 mobile home parks. All 10 were eliminated. Very few in those missed their coach somehow. And I went up there 3 years after the fact, and I still found evidence. Here's the same mobile home park. 19 of these mobile homes burned up. The trees, oh yeah, the last mulberry did. Eucalyptus were there. They didn't burn. Here's a coach. This is the way in. You go up the steps, open the door, and walk inside. This is the only wood on the property. It refused to burn. And we got huge flames behind it. Another one. This is my famous one, especially with all the other materials around it. On the side of the coach, that's the door frame to walk inside. On that side, the wood didn't even turn black at all. Shows you we're dealing with a different fire. I wish I knew the composition of these flames, but it doesn't recognize the organics. The wood should have been black, or it should have been burned. I mean, normal fires.
And
Anyway.
that stick is plastic probably, and it's not melted.
I can't speak about the stuff in the foreground, but I don't think they just brought that in there and hung it on there. You know, the cord, the gas can, and all these others.
Right. It looks like there's plenty of plastic in this photo that's intact.
Yeah. So, you know, I can't talk about this stuff if I don't know, but there's that deck. That doesn't happen. I don't care if they think the wind's blowing the other way. When they pull that one on me. On the background left, that's eucalyptus, silver dollar eucalyptus. Just as flammable as the blue gums. They refuse to burn. And there's the fireman back there. I talked to him and they had a lady. She was the boss. She didn't know what she was talking about at all. And she was the experienced one. The same year that burned the whole Bay Area, 3 or 4 years ago now, they took away Big Basin State Park, where we have a lot of redwoods. Here's the outskirts of the park. I'm standing on Highway 1 with the Pacific Ocean behind me. And here's a grove of blue gum eucalyptus. Smaller ones, kind of narrow and overcrowded. Fire went right through them, right under them. Leaves are on the ground. It did not ignite. This was shock treatment when I saw this. This should have gone up in a horrible inferno and left nothing, because the oils, even in the trunk, years past, we'd cut down a big 3-foot blue gum eucalyptus, take everything away, and the stump would ooze the oils up out of it. My friend was a cigarette smoker. He'd take that cigarette lighter and light the stump on fire, just the oils. The whole thing instantly would be blue flames. That's, of course, the sap or oils. But these leaves, a cigarette lighter in hand starts these. Unbelievable. It doesn't recognize the organics.
Is that blue flame also indicative of?
That was just the starting, but the whole stump was blue, and then higher up it turned into the normal yellows and orange. This is up in Calistoga, right next to town. A house was missing to my left, and here's a soil bag. It still had soil in it, I moved it a little bit to see if they put it there. No, there was no leaves under it. That was there. The tennis shoe was there. And you see the black. There's black everywhere. All these recent oaks and these other leaves fell after the fact. That's all at the same location. A cushion for your chair. I pick them up and I move them all. I got to play devil's advocate. I don't want to make anything up. Now back to Big Basin. They wouldn't let me go in the park for 2 years. And now, of course, to go in there, even for the day, you have to get on the computer, get a day use permit to go outside and play, or you can't go. You can't show up and pay the ranger. Nope. Same with backpacking permits. Here's a pile of, redwood trees. To me, these are toddlers. This is the tallest tree on the planet, coastal redwood. And when you look at the cuts, this is very important. These are 90% dead. They should not have that heartwood. The dark area is the heartwood, non-conductive tissue. The white is the sapwood, the live tissue. I've cut down trees this size, forever. You're lucky to find any brown in them at all at this age. Maybe a tiny little square inch in the middle, dead center. That would be your heartwood. It shows me these things were cooked from the inside out. I don't know at what rate, whether it was 5 minutes, an hour, or 8 hours, but they're cooked from the inside out. And these are toddlers when it comes to redwoods. These are maybe the big one's 100 feet. That's it. And the small ones, and I'm finding log piles like this all over, so I'm photographing them. Heartwood and sapwood ratios are simple things for arborists. Anybody should know this. The whole background has leaves. Dead, but I can't say they're burned. These are the roads going around Big Basin State Park. I went to all the homes with my brother, 4 or 5 trips down there. Perhaps this is a year later. They're suckering back from roots and lower trunks. A home here is missing, and here's their plastic swimming pool. Blue tarps, some other stuff that's all plastic around here. Refused to burn. I think the canopy on your left that collapsed probably had metal bolts here and there, and those were on fire. Same property. One of these nice canopies with your glass table underneath. Burned everywhere. Not that. And your media giants will always tell you the flying embers. Well, where's the holes in this canopy?
Right.
All they do is lie. And all the redwood in the background. They are fire retardant, but when a firestorm comes through, it doesn't play favorites. It burns every leaf on them. I've used to backpack in the Big Sur area, way in the backcountry. Once in a while, a natural fire came through. It left black poles, limbless, for the redwoods. Then they'd sprout out, regrow. Not so in this fire. No, the trunks are black, and I want to say that's because of liquids inside the inner bark, the cambial fluids, if you will. And they're igniting because of the liquids. Okay, back to the mountains.
So Robert, real quick, the famous banyan tree in Maui, they said it burned, but that it's going to come back. I don't know. I'm not sure if they...
I've heard a lot. I wish I could analyze it.
Is a banyan tree a lot of liquid inside? Or...
It does. It's a fig. It's a weed. It's a ficus. Like our edible figs. That's all it is a ficus. They grow fast. It's a soft wood. They hold a lot of moisture. And it's probably cooked from the inside out and made a whole bunch of heartwood, like those redwoods. How much, I don't know, because the fire was on every single side of it, burned every building, and that tree looked dead. It's probably cooked everything throughout and has a degree of heartwood. So as it regrows and grows out, heartwood can't flex like sapwood in the wind, move around with the wind. It's dead tissue. So when it gets too heavy on the ends with new growth and a little bit of wind, they just break. And I fear that might happen. 1, 2, 3 years down the road, it grows out, it gets more weight. It can't sway. They just get too heavy and limbs break off. And we'll see. I hope not, because I hear this is a beautiful tree. But that's what I see with these things. When there's too much heartwood, even residential stuff I do, when there's too much heartwood, somebody's trimmed the tree way too much, then it grows back out like an old apple tree. It hollows out. Person gets heartwood, it hollows out, and pretty soon there's a giant hole in your apple tree. That's just common.
There's a group that wants to completely remove the banyan tree because they think it represents colonialism, but there might be another reason why they want to get rid of that
What's
tree.
in their brain? I say leave it, cordon it off so a branch can't hit somebody.
Right, because it's
going to... watch it. Just watch it. The easy way out is remove it. That's the easy way out, always.
I was told that the tree, 75 to 80% of it has survived, but they are going to have to cut away about 20% of the tree But it is allegedly going to mostly survive. But yeah, they will cut about 20% of it.
And that hurts it
Yeah.
because you cut off X amount of green that corresponds directly to the limbs, the trunk, and the roots. So it dies back more when you cut that off. It doesn't have the green to sustain good health. Oh boy, terrible. This one, I came off of Highway 99. I had to go up to the Shaver Lake area, that gigantic fire that almost went to the crest of the Sierra south of Mammoth. Shaver Lake, Huntington Lake. This would be the southern fork of the San Joaquin River system. Another gargantuan fire. I think it was February, but I went up to the first area I could. And this is all I had to do, go to the first house. The windows were melted out. The tires were melted out. There was some plastics here. The trees were dead and some kind of looked burned, but that's the only one I kept for that fire. But there was a bunch of cars like this. The houses were gone. It was the same stuff, exactly. So I didn't go any farther. Big fire. I can't remember how many homes they burned. And there was a lot of plastics here with the snow on them. I had to brush them off and take pictures. But yeah, I wanted to go, I don't remember the name of it, but Shaver Lake on Highway 168 up there. They gave it a 3-digit, like LNC or CBS or whatever. They give them those numbers now.
And then now that I'm seeing snow, there was also a fire where it snowed during the fire, the Smokehouse Creek fire. It either snowed during or immediately after the Texas one, the Texas Panhandle in
All the
Amarillo.
private cattle ranches. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that worked out real well for them. They were cooked, those poor cattle. The Russian River comes in, it goes out to the ocean north of San Francisco Bay. Back in there, there's an area called the Armstrong Redwoods State Park. And there was a fire up there that burns somewhere near Lake Sonoma over the ridges to that Armstrong Redwoods Park. I took all the roads I could for a day. I came back in here and I find this stockpile of plastics that they're getting ready to take off the property. If you get there quick enough, you'll find these. You notice everything here didn't want to melt or burn. They've collected other stuff in those black bags. I don't know what. But all the garbage cans, all this fencing, all these plastics. If you get there quick enough, you can see what's going on. Same fire. I see this chainsaw. I think I have that model in the back of this pickup truck. The window melted out at 2,500 degrees. All the tires burned completely, leaving the slinky-like steel belts. Wasn't it hot as heck? Well, of course it was. The plastics. That plastic should be gone completely, down to the metals. Didn't happen. That was an amazing, when I looked in that truck, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Cigarette lighter, if you had enough fuel, you could probably melt the plastic, no problem. It had a little damage, but from what happened to this window and these tires, you don't burn a tire that quick. But with these fires, perhaps they do. I don't know. Yeah, that was damning. Over on the border of Nevada, south of Topaz, which is Nevada, where they can gamble, you're on Highway 395, the highway that goes up the eastern side of the Sierra Nevada. A community called Walker in the Walker River system. Here was a metal shop. The house to the right is missing, but it's the metal shop I wanted to look at. Whatever metal workers, what he did. All this metal got superheated, and oddly, the tree on the left is a pinyon pine, the pine nut of commerce that we eat. Those are kind of more flammable than most pines. They're high desert, along with their juniper pinyon woodlands. When a fire comes through, a natural fire, it burns them up completely. It didn't happen this day, and I think there was flames all over the place. No pinyon, and that's a good sized pinyon. They usually don't achieve that height. It's rare. Oh, that was scary. Same place. That's just in the foreground. All the tires. That's the way your tires look like.
And also, Robert, we've noticed that a lot of metals will instantly rust. And I noticed a lot of those metals.
And you had the reasoning for that. I didn't know. I just thought heavy dew or rain and they'd rust right away, but it's something else.
Yeah, this rust seems to occur rather instantly. Like as soon as the fire is passed, it seems like the metal is in this state, and it would take a period of time for it to oxidize naturally, according to a chemical process. Okay. However, it looks like there was perhaps some sort of electrolysis that took place that actually rusted these metals almost instantly.
Wow. Yeah, I had no idea. It was above my pay grade. There was kids' toys all behind here by the house, plastic toys everywhere, but I didn't want to overload you with too many photographs. So there's what you see. What's left of the tire Usually I don't even find this much. I can even find the black usually. That's the way I find almost 99% of my tires. Then I find this in this, I'll say it, in the same areas. It could be a hoarder of tires in the backyard, 100, 200 tires, and there'll be one untouched, just like that, polyester cord. I believe there's one steel core right on the edge, one wire to hold, like the bead to hold it on the rim. Other than that, these are unaffected. They're not melted at all. And I'll pick them up to see if they've been sitting in the dirt. There'll be a ring in the soil. They've been there the whole time. No metal. There's your microwave technology. And I've seen that everywhere. This is north on 101 by Ukiah, a little town called Calpella. They had a fire there. I want to say it was called the Hopkins Fire, and also near Lake Mendocino. And I walked all over, spent a day there. And months later, they put a homeless person in jail and said he did it. Oh, no, 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 no. I've got heaps of evidence on this one. This is a parking block, homemade, painted red, probably 20 feet long, if not more. Every 8 feet is where they attach it to a post going in the ground. Every one burns only where the bolts are. I have more, but I only put 2 here. See?
Have you noticed that certain colors tend to be less affected?
Only the blue. And that's just since Maui. And I look back at my photos and I have a lot of play structures and little kids' plastic blue swimming pools, blue. Yeah. So that one's a newer one for me since Hawaii. I've had to do that, double check all these old photos.
But you've seen that other places. That's a kind of
thing. Yeah. And even in Maui, you look hard enough, I found a play structure and the homes were gone. Here's this nice plastic, good size one too, for a lot of kids. It's in one of my videos with Michelle, I think. So there was a homeless guy they put in jail and threw the book at him. I think he's even convicted. Now this is up at Redding, California. The next fire was the Fawn Fire, Fawn, I believe, like the deer. And I happened to go up there on the way to Oregon, and anomalies everywhere. Here's a fence line. They all look like this. Burned at the nails, burned at the ground. Eucalyptus were up there. It's not that cold of a habitat. Eucalyptus are subtropical generally, but they can live in Redding. It doesn't get quite that cold. They put a lady in jail, Alexandria something, blonde lady, and she was backpacking and threw the book at her. I've talked to her lawyer. He wasn't interested in me at all. Incidentally, he worked for the feds down out of Modesto or Oakdale before he got the job up here as a public defender. I don't trust these people. So here's that photo. There's a better one. That might be on the front of my book when it comes out, or that one. I like them both. What kind of fire can do that? And it's still there. I've been by there twice. This is the same fire. I talked to a gentleman, everybody directed me up this hill. His whole 2-story house is missing. I don't see one burned tree. There's ponderosa pine, black oak, white oak. There's a deodar cedar to the left there a little bit. That's pine family from the Himalayas. And a digger pine on the left, the big multi-branched one. Nothing wanted to burn that day, just the house. There's anomalies.
Something else we've been noticing is there's no toilets or bathtubs.
Or windows. The glass I can't find.
Right. Yeah. So I just wanted to throw out that aluminum does start melting at about 1221, like you said. Glass starts to melt at about 2500. But porcelain, the melting point is much higher than even that of glass.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't looked that one up. Oh my gosh. Kind of like that day 23 years ago in New York where they couldn't find a piece of a toilet.
And that's right.
My girlfriend saw this one. This is a tall post, perhaps 5 or 6 feet high, and way up high, eye level. You can tell the way I'm shooting. Here's just the nail area burn. Big basin again. The redwoods over on the coast. She saw that. Boy, I had to get out of the car. And incidentally, in Big Basin, there's 2 kinds of alders there. Another very extreme water-loving family is the alder family, which have the birch in them also. And mostly our birches are all imported, and they're put in front yards, these white ones. We do have one in California on the eastern side of the Sierra called water birch with a brown trunk. Small thing. But alders and birch, the alder trees in Big Basin, they were dead, and they didn't turn black. So much water in them, you wouldn't believe it, an alder. And again, they have to be planted right next to a creek, spring, lake, whatever. Because I looked around, all the redwoods were kind of brown, and I saw the alders. First thing I was looking for is the extreme water lovers. It tells me a big story right there. So they burned that park. North of the mountain, Mount Shasta was a fire. I don't know the name of it. It burned a motel to the ground. And here's this board full of nails. It was laying on the ground. You can see the print. I picked it up just so I could show the picture. What really burned? The nails on that board. This is north of Weed, California, perhaps 15 miles or 20. They burned a motel to the ground. I want to say 2 years ago in the San Francisco Bay Area, where the Sacramento and San Joaquin rivers meet in the Benicia area, they go through the strait there. There's a little place called Port Costa, where the transcontinental railroads used to be floated across in the 1800s. Where they come out, there's a little park there with a whole grove of blue gum eucalyptus. And anytime there's a fire near me, I'm going to go look at it just because. And 100% of them have been like this. This little guardrail is a park guardrail, and actually it's all wood. There's no metal here. The cross member, the long ones, and the post are all wood. And each one was burned like this, where the screws were. And there's the grove, Benicia on the far left. The ground's on fire. The trees turn brown. They refuse to ignite. And oddly, there was some baby elderberries up here, which are very deep-rooted in water lovers. They were toasted right at the ground, 1 or 2 inches up. But this thing should have been hell on earth. There should have been flames everywhere. Didn't happen.
Have you noticed other places, like when there's a lake or something, that the boats are often destroyed?
The only one I saw, it was on pictures, was the car fire at Whiskey Town Lake, which is west of Redding. There's a wooden dock going all the way out to the boats out in the middle. The wooden dock's okay. The boats out there. Wait, I mean, I'm talking 100 or maybe 200 feet out in the water. The metal boats were all half burned and melted. And you'll see those on the internet. Like I saw that jumped out right away. This is going over Monitor Pass, Highway 89, coming down to 395 where Topaz is. And I noticed there had been a fire. I looked out my window and I saw that. Had to go up on the hill and get close. The barbed wire perhaps moves up and down with the wind, but why wouldn't it burn consistently from the bottom up? No, it's the wires. If there's a lot of wrapped barbed wire, that's usually where the worst burning is. Sometimes one strand around it will not ignite it. But still, the burn pattern doesn't make sense.
Do you also find that where you see these wirings, that wire will conduct heat for long distances and even go into a building? I'm thinking about the Pentecostal church that had that beam that was burned, but the rest of the church was still okay. So we're thinking the wiring that was going through the ceiling is what was bringing the fire.
Yeah, I believe that there was induction, external induction induced through the wiring of that building, and there was resistive heating that heated it up and caught the surrounding area on fire, but only for a couple inches in each direction.
There was a cable on a railroad trestle. I don't remember the fire. It was either Canada or up in Oregon, Washington. Just not too many months ago. It's a railroad trestle. And here's this cable. The whole thing's on fire. You can find that on the internet. Yeah.
It might also be why in Jasper the appliances busted.
Oh, yes, Fort McMurray. Yeah, Fort McMurray had a lot of shorted appliances.
But the house was okay.
Is that the only Fort McMurray fire? About what, 5 years ago or?
2016, Fort McMurray, Canada. Yeah, that was the major fire that they had.
Okay, yeah, that's one of the ones I learned about. So many around the world I've learned about. Here's more of the same. I see eucalyptus in here down on the bottom. I don't remember the exact location, but look at the heartwood buildup. That's way too much. On the far left up top, you see little brown areas. That's more normal. Small amount of heartwoods. Yeah, that's just Arborist 101. These were starting to combust. So these weren't pine. No, these are like oak. Look at the little areas in the middle. All of a sudden they're black in the middle. Little holes are starting. Now these are oaks, looks like most of them. I can't tell which species, but hardwood, way too much. They're cooked internally. Now here's our big Dixie fire. Almost 1 million acres. Greenville, California. Took the whole town away. Left 1 gas station and 1 food store. You can guess who owns those. Took the whole town away. Oh my God. The whole forest is dead, but I can't say it's burned. The trunks are burned up, 70, 80 feet in the air. But look at the needles. This is a ponderosa pine, white fir, red fir, probably a silver pine, and could be a Douglas fir in there. They didn't burn up. What kind of forest fire forgot the forest again? Yeah. And they started clearing from the road a good 100 feet or more, every tree on both sides of the road to make future fire lines. There's the town. I traveled a lot on this fire footprint. I couldn't believe it, how huge it was. All the trees are dead in the picture, but I can't say they burned up. And here's your city. Anomalies everywhere. Whoever it was, they took all the plastic garbage cans and got rid of them so nobody would see the evidence. But I found some brand new ones in somebody's yard with brand new numbers and writing on them. So they did have garbage cans. One of my questions that I ask the public always, if they have that service, they're quick to get in there and get rid of items that should have burned.
Oh,
So that was the Dixie Fire, which burned almost 1 million acres. And in contrast, I'm sorry?
have you noticed recently it's been a lot harder to find those types of, images or video? I just feel like in the short time I've been looking at it, there's very little to find.
They're
Whereas
quick.
in Maui, there was a lot of information.
They make sure they keep the public out and say, you can't come back till we make it safe. Meanwhile, the trucks are coming in empty and they're going out full. It'd be nice if people saw them, followed them, see what they're dumping, where they're taking it. Somebody's doing this work and they're keeping their mouths shut. And I've caught them. In here, I'll show you a pile that's coming up. Oh, here it is. Okay, this is the Oak Fire, Mariposa, California, where they put a whole diabetic man that's 71 years old that can hardly walk, who's land rich. He owns a lot of property. They grabbed him and put him in jail at gunpoint. And I happened to go there and analyze it. One of my best days of analyzing. I drove 140 miles to Mariposa and spent the whole day and came home late. It's the same thing. They put this old guy, Edward Wakerman, in jail. And Tuesday, they had a court case for him to say, hey, should we give him bail or not? It was all about his bail. And they have zero evidence on him. And they say they have all kinds of evidence. They never showed any of it. He has 16 felonies against him for this fire that he couldn't have started in his wildest dreams. This board is in my garage now. Since it fell outside in the public area, I figure I'm picking up litter. See the nails in it. There was 9 burn spots. Each one had a nail, and I moved it around to take better pictures, and the nails kept falling out. There's still 4 nails in it. What kind of fire is this that this old gentleman started? It's damning evidence. It's going to be in my book, and his name's going to be in my book too. And these trees with leaves to the ground, they don't want to burn. The water tank up there on the hill melted, and I walked up there, actually looked. There was metal pieces in the areas where they caved in, little metal fittings and elbows for the water. I've been trying to contact these people. Every time I go up now, they've cleared it off and put a mobile home in there. I've left them notes. I think they're afraid to get involved because that board was in the street. Another property real close. Or is it the same truck? Real close. Oddly, the people that have that burned up property, the only tree that burned was a Lombardy poplar, a little 5-6 inch diameter poplar, which is an extreme water lover down by the road. It burned just at the very bottom, and they removed it and got rid of it. And it's
Was
just a
this
little
green piping? Was that there, you think?
no, that's just
After?
contain the area, keep the pollutants from draining down into the watershed. Cosmetic. This was behind a container freight. Oh, inside the container freight, you wouldn't believe it. Everything looked like just fried completely. Everything in that metal, because they're metal. This was behind a container freight, everything on the property they could find to be hauled away and disposed of. Look how many plastics. The little pots, the garden hose, the PVCs, the chair. Whoever collected it and put it here, they probably didn't work the day it was taken away and nobody saw it. Why? Oh yeah. It's not the homeowner. I don't believe that. There's a B&B up there, and I keep calling them, and there's no answer. I believe their place burned to the ground. It's up a dirt driveway, so I couldn't see the house. But right here, this is still here on the street. It burned where the bolts and nails were. Big sign.
That's another commonality I'm hearing, like little bed and breakfasts and a lot of motels seem
And motels.
targeted.
Well, you know who owns all the motels in California? The Mosquito Fire, east of Auburn, California, on Highway 80. I saw some pictures, drove up there, crossed the new bridge, the Forestdale Bridge, and most of the roads were open and they didn't take everything out. So here's a predominant ponderosa pine forest. Little short ones and everything, where the flames are in the needles. They refuse to ignite. And here's your cars. This is a dirt parking lot. I don't believe there was ever grass in it, anything combustible. Same stuff. The rims are melted. The windows are gone. And oddly, down on the left, those are black oaks. They're more of a coniferous zone tree that'll grow up to perhaps 7,000 feet. and they'll grow up, some of them 100 feet tall. They'll be in Yosemite Valley and compete with the conifers. They hold a ton of water. Those are the ones that burned down there on the left.
So
Smaller limbs are gone. I'm sorry?
let's say they wanted to clear, let's say they wanted to clear a forest to, do something with the land. Would burning it be a much easier process versus doing it without burning it?
You'd have to be careful because uh, to burn it, you have to get the fire up in the canopy, and you don't want it up in the canopy. It turns into a firestorm. It starts spreading to other trees. I don't know. The best is to log it, make profit on it, and pull the stumps out or whatever with tractors. Knock them down, get them on the ground. If you're going to burn them, put them in slash piles and do it in winter. They have whole tree chippers nowadays. If the tree's not big enough to use for lumber, they knock it down. The thing picks it up, chips the entire tree. And this is all the way up to, I think, 28 to 30 inches. The whole tree goes right through a machine. Yeah, I don't know. There's different ways to do that, but let's hope we never see that day. John Lord and Matt woke me up to this one. This is your Caldor fire. Way down the left in the background, you see some blue. That's Caples Lake. We're almost to Carson Pass. This is a subalpine belt. Those are all aspen. And I found anomalies, of course. But John Lord told me about the pipes. Perfect timing. During the fire and where it crosses the road, they have the old metal pipes. They pulled 11 or 12 out on this road and replaced them with a plastic pipe or cement. If it's a bigger creek that comes through, they need to make a big cement pipe in there or a square one. And I'm finding this all over now. Big Basin did it. Dardanelles Fire did it. Salinas Fire did it. The Caldor right here and Paradise.
Maui. Yeah.
Paradise also. And I tracked down where the pipes were. There's one gas station at Kirkwood Ski Resort on the main road, Highway 88. There behind it are the 11 pipes. And I've seen this. I'm taking note of it. I guess they don't want the road to collapse when a diesel truck goes over it because these pipes are probably compromised. Up north in Weed, California, there was a fire called the Mill Fire because it started at a lumber mill. And this one killed 3 people, burned their homes to the ground. They couldn't get out of their homes. And it was the same thing. I spent 2 different days up there analyzing this, and it's the same thing. Just a nightmare. Here's your Corral Fire. This is June now, this year. Highway 5's right here. This is the ramps. And here's your eucalyptus. It's down in the flames. Refused to burn. There's the boards. I'm just putting one in here. There's many boards like this everywhere where only the screws or other fasteners were on fire.
And Shane, we did this one, right? Did we report the?
Yeah, that was June 1st. Yeah.
And it started up the canyon at the Lawrence Livermore lab. They have 2 labs. One's on this side, on the Tracy side. I drove up the road. It started right next to their building.
Yeah.
It's where they make the trillion-watt laser and whatever else they have. And across the street from their lab was a Fremont Cottonwood. I wish I brought that picture, the one that holds the most water. And it burned down one house.
Because that was a small one, right? Do you think they're testing something or?
I have no idea. This is another blue. This is either Nikolai's or it's one of the other eucalyptus. Didn't burn, right in the flames. There's anomalies everywhere on that little fire. Anyway.
Yeah, I do believe the Tracy fire did start or the Corral fire in Tracy, California did start near the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories. And allegedly there was a controlled burn the day before, and the firefighters were supposed to have been there until the next day, but then they left and the fire got out of control. So it seems like it's the same fire.
Huh. And I saw the cars in the background. I zoomed in with a big 800 millimeter. The cars were the same on this property where the house is. I've gone back 2 or 3 times to try to meet the family that lives there. It's a husband and wife. I just want to see how that's going with their insurance and everything.
Yeah. Do you find that a lot of the people that lost property and vehicles know that there's something not right, or?
Some of my talks up in Santa Rosa, people have come. I just had one. They've come and they've lost their homes, and they knew about it, and many of them knew about it only through me. It's new to me, but that's what they've said. Not all over, because I'm selective who I talk to. Because they'll think I'm a crazy kook. If I tell them
when I went to Camarillo, we spoke to maybe 4 or 5 groups of people, and I was worried that they were going to say, you're just, one of those conspiracy theorists, or that sounds crazy. No one said that. They all
Good.
thought there was something
Good.
miss. And every time we mentioned Maui, they were like,
Good.
"Oh yeah."
That is a good one. I've used that one, and they say, "Oh, yeah, the Corral fire. There was a investigator there, Cal Fire, and he acted like he knew it all. He had 20 years experience." And I said, "Well, I got 50," and I shut him up quick. And I said, "Well, what do you think about Lahaina?" And he actually said, "Yeah, there is something strange going on there because it's right there in the public eye. Many vacationers go there."
Mhm.
Um, let's see. We're at the Park Fire up north now, north of Chico. I believe
This
this.
was just
Yeah,
a few months ago, right?
that's right. And here's Ponderosa pine, the straight ones. The curved ones are digger, gray, or bull pine. They have lots of names for them. They don't want to mess with the digger Indians because they used to dig up bulbs and eat them. So they don't want to call them digger pines anymore. Well, I still call them digger pines. um, so you're in a upper foothill or lower pine belt here. Very flammable areas. And no, they're not burning. And look in the background. Chunks of metal everywhere. I tried to get the clearest pictures. Same thing. Oh, and this is where they caught the guy. Oh, he was terrible. There was a lady on TV. She was crying and said, "Why would he light it on fire?" And I watched him push it down the hill.
Oh
To me,
yeah.
she's a crisis actor. There's the car. That's it. If he,
That's
if
the one
he,
he pushed?
yep, if he burned it, why are the windows melted out?
Right. Yeah.
I have questions. Yeah, no, it's whatever, distraction, lie, whatever. Yeah, this is the park fire. I've got several in here. Homes are gone, and here's your Ponderosa pine over on the right, and Ponderosa pine, and there's 22 pines in California, 22 species. The number one or most prevalent pine in the state is a Ponderosa pine. We can find them in almost all our mountainous ecosystems throughout the whole state, and it burns more often than any other tree. That because it can, they're in all these mountainous areas, and I'm finding them dead but not burned. Maybe the needles fell off. The twigs won't burn. Tiny little twigs. If anybody's ever seen a real forest fire, the twigs go right behind the needles.
You know
Burn a
something
Christmas
else?
tree.
Something that I find really hard to believe. In Camarillo, I got footage, and this was the day after the fire, shortly after. The melted aluminum was on top of dried leaves,
Yep,
and
yep.
the leaves weren't burned.
I'd like to talk to some smart people about the composition of the flame itself. That's
Right.
that's way above me.
And those were also eucalyptus, actually. Yes.
That's the worst one you can get.
Right.
I've found several aluminum boats like this at different aftermaths. Sometimes they're just gone, and there's the chain holding on to them. It'd be a fun test is to put some firewood in the boat and start it on fire and just see what happens. There's a lot of tests I'd like to do.
Yeah, and this one looks a really high elevation where it can't be that hot.
This has got some oaks in here, so this isn't that high up. Uh, Not sure what elevation that park fire achieved. It might have gone up to 3,000 to 4,000 feet, but I don't think much higher. There's a lot of oaks in here and a ponderosa pine. It's a lower pine belt starting to go up. Might be 3,000 feet. And I don't know what that thing was. Was that a camper, a mobile home? I don't know. There's the ladder going up. This is the way I find them all. Same fire. Digger pine again. In the back's either a redwood or a deodar cedar. Wow.
What's that on the ground?
Looks like a fake wall made of a different material, not brick. I don't know. Same old things. The windows, the rims. Yeah, I don't know how many more of these I've got some more. Okay. Just amazing. Made my own term up with the alloy or aluminum rims. Sometimes they're melted out, other times they're chunked out, where there's not much melting. They're falling off in these big chunks, like they got brittle and then just kind of fell apart. And that's the alloys. I don't know.
I do think that's due to the different compositions of the other metals. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. So we're finding all these identical. Once in a while, I'd have to look through my photos. You will see half a vehicle burned, and it's perfect in the front or the back with the door. I mean, the fire did not overlap at all. Like Judy Wood's book, there's a few of those. Like it didn't overlap. Some odd stuff. But the same one.
Have you found blue cars that were practically untouched?
Offhand, I can't think of any offhand. No, and I haven't been to one in a while since I learned about the blue.
Mm-hmm.
Here's your whole Ponderosa pina. They're thinner, they're browner, but yeah. These are mostly oak trees in the back. At that elevation, it would be canyon live oak or interior live oak. Yeah, another house. Still the same. We're gonna hit Southern California here in a minute. Amazing here though. After a forest fire I've seen, the twigs are gone right behind the needles. Yeah. Yeah, some beautiful places in the mountains. I think we're going to Southern California now. I don't tell everybody where all my favorite mountain spots are. Okay, we're gonna go to the mountain fire now. You've probably seen many of these already. I will see swing sets like in the back with all the seats made of plastic or rubberized, but the chains are all stainless steel. The bolts that hold them together, there's nothing there that would rust. So I won't see the plastic chairs or seats melted. This is all over the place. Swing sets are pretty much untouched. So it's something to do with the stainless steel, the way it's created. You know, a metal person could have a better answer for that, but I'm seeing this all over. Swimming pools too, that are the plastic doughboy ones, they'll have a lot of stainless steel, and those will not heat up in that area. So something to do with the lamination process. Trees everywhere, none of them catching fire. Perhaps you've seen this one. I can't tell I think that's a beefwood in the back from Australia. Some palms. Yeah, that wasn't too clear. Sorry about that one. But it's kind of hard to find these pictures, like they're going in there and deleting them, so you can't find the materials. It's usually a general shot like this or the flames. It's still going. Nothing up close. And I zoom in, I look around the whole photograph and see if I can find something that stands out to me. There's your aluminum. What's melting it this far away? What's keeping it flowing?
Right. That has to be at least 1400 degrees.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, who knows how far above it's going. I know the temperatures aren't reaching 4,000 because all your metals in the cars would start melting somewhere around that temperature.
Right. Yeah, above 3000, you're going to lose steel and other things too.
Oh, that's what it is. 3,000. Okay. Yeah, wherever you look, you see the same thing. It doesn't matter which fire aftermath. I wish I was down there to walk around.
There's so much white ash in some of these photos. It looks like the heat would have been really intense. However, it didn't reach very far.
Yeah. I have a house in the Kincaid fire I keep going back to. That's my piece of aluminum I have. And Italian stone pines there turned a little brown. Camellia bushes around the house. The home's gone, burned to the ground. And here's these camellia bushes 12 to 20 inches from the home. And the leaves just turned a little brown. Like, what the heck?
Something else I wanted to ask, because in Maui, we have a lot of reports of a lot of explosions, like hundreds of bam, bam, bam. And I had a fire captain say that palm trees, because they have a high oil content, or maybe it was moisture, he says that that will heat up and then explode. A palm
No,
tree would do that.
no, I'd say no. And we were thinking they were the propane tanks for barbecues and others. No, it's not those either. Those don't blow up either. No, what I think, and I'm just guessing, this is the concussion of the weapon, breaking the sound barrier when it hits in different spots, like snapping your towel. It breaks the sound barrier. Different things, kaboom. And John Lord and Matt and I talked about this too, because they analyzed, Paradise and Santa Rosa. They didn't see any tanks splayed open and blown up, and the cars. I've never seen one, ripped open somewhere by the gas tank. We think it's the concussion breaking the sound barrier where it's hitting different areas, whether it's out, whatever they're hitting, and that's just a guess.
That makes sense, because there's not that many. Even if it were the propane tanks, there's not that many to cause hundreds and thousands of explosions.
That's right. Something I notice very often now is I try to find the creeks, the riparian corridors, whether the creek has water or it's just dry and the water is subterranean moving down that valley. I will see all the water levers burn from the inside out, and the fire will come up the bank a little ways, but stop, not come over the bank and burn the mountainside or the whatever it is. It stays in the valley, and I've seen it go 100 yards or more. It didn't want to come out of the valley, and it burned everything down there, and mostly water levers. And I have some pictures of that. Also, I analyzed a creek, North Fork Cache Creek by Clear Lake, California. The North Fork doesn't have any lake on it, and I was going to backpack, and there happened to be a fire.
This probably where the gulches, I've noticed the gulches at the bottom are usually, well, I saw that in Kula and I saw that in Camarillo. the gulch is on fire, but the
Yeah.
trees are still. So maybe there was water collecting.
Yeah, there's subterranean water because some of the willows there have to have water. So it's under the rocks and it's still flowing. But this creek runs all year, Cache Creek, North Fork. There's pools that are 6, 8 feet deep, possibly more. And I used to fish it, and there's big fish. The fish are gone. The frogs, the turtles, the aquatic insects. I look for everything. I'm versed in a lot of this stuff. I couldn't find any aquatic insect at all in the creek, and it's already been 2 or 3 years past. And I thought that was odd. No fish, no turtles, no frogs. And I'm by myself, so I see a lot. And it was kind of devoid of life. I'm going to start carrying a butterfly net now with a long extension tied to it. And I'm going to start dipping it around and see what's alive in these creeks. Because if an electrical current is going through the water, not much is going to survive that.
But you would think some would come back in a year and multiply.
I know, that's the weird part, because this was 2 or 3 years later. The shrubs from ceanothus and other shrubs had already grown up to 3 and 4 feet. So that was an odd one. I don't have an answer for it, but to me, it was devoid of life. Esteban Drive. I'm not sure if this went into the line or bridge fire. And of course, if you probably know, homes are burning from the top down. They're always hitting the roof. So when people say the fires are coming up through the ground and we're being attacked from underground, I kind of don't go with that. The roofs always catch on fire first, especially when they're metal. And then the ground itself is on fire, I believe, because of the metals in it and the water content, and perhaps some of the sprays. But I'm kind of ruling out the sprays from jets, because if it was making the ground more flammable, the trees would be more flammable, and a lot of them would die. It's not happening.
You know, something I noticed with Camarillo, the houses and the burns, they were sporadic. They weren't all clumped together. There was like a house here, and then there was a couple cars burned.
Okay,
which I found interesting.
Part of me says it's kind of like a shower head or your blender. You're turning it to frappe and stir and chop and hack and blend. It's a different head, and maybe it shoots out little rays all over, or one big sweep like Santa Rosa, where there were straight lines going through the football field at one of the schools, middle school or high school. Straight line down the middle of the green field. Like, what does that? And the grass is green. I don't know if you can find those pictures anymore. Who knows what type of shower head they're using? We're just guessing. We have no idea what the delivery systems are.
I do like the shower head analogy. It does seem to kind of fit.
Well, yeah, when it's missing certain things and scratching your head, I don't get it. Now, John and I sat down. We had long talks before he passed away, and we thought, all right, delivery systems, whether it's a vehicle, if it flies, if it floats in a ship. And we kind of rule out drones, but never know. Maybe drones. I just don't know how it would have the firepower, but maybe. But we kind of think satellites, and that sounds far-fetched, but because planes have to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Satellites way up there, but it's all guesswork. We don't know.
I do think it could be both. I do think that there are space-based platforms, but the drone technology could be more advanced than we're actually aware of.
Yeah, maybe big ones we never see.
And some drones can do like an old-fashioned fire. They just kind of torch. I mean, this is open information. They have these drones that just fire and burn down things.
I saw some of the helicopters doing backfires. Like, okay, that's the good guys. So I think this goes into the line and bridge. They might be mixed in here. That one was pretty damning. And actually a piece of blackened wood. Surprising. And I see the fencing they put up here. That's a temporary.
I was thinking.
Like Maui. But there's your cars. Same thing again. Yeah, there's that fencing. They don't want anybody taking pictures and spreading it around the world. I don't know how many I have left. I believe that, unless there was an earlier fire in this area, I believe that's still line.
I believe this is the line fire. Yes.
It is. That's pretty clear. This is some type of a bridge. Well, it's all metal. I don't know what the surface coating was, but like I should have put it in here. London, England, in the parking structure that was 6 or 7 layers high, all cement. They had a small grease fire. 11 to 1,400 cars were fried, and they're all on different levels with cement between them all.
Right.
And you look at the photographs on Google Images, and the cement's ground up like a rototiller, and all you see is the rebar inside.
The rebar, yes.
Nothing could do that to cement. No way. A small grease fire, they did it they had a little test kit and they went out and said, let's try it out with this parking structure. You see those
I,
pictures? Oh my gosh.
yeah, a microwave beam could turn all those rebars into heating elements, basically.
That's right. Unbelievable what that looked like. This could be the last one.
I noticed
And I
that one
believe
car is red. That seems to have kind of repelled it.
red. Oh, yeah, you never know. Lights are there in the grill.
We saw this in Chile. The
Yeah,
red.
so ever since Maui, I've noticed that especially blue, but also green and sometimes red objects seem to have survived adjacent to other things that burned. And it does
Okay.
kind of match up with the tattoo removal clinic, which requires a second laser to remove red and a third laser to remove blue.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Did you go to Chile?
No, I haven't been there, but I have gathered a lot of the photos from the internet.
There's plenty.
And
I think I've done
Yeah.
3 videos on Canada, Chile, Texas Panhandle, and Maui. My last 3, I think, were on those kind of. Last year, 2023, they burned 43 million acres of Canada. That number is just gigantic. When I remember the Dixie Fire, that was close to 1 million acres, 43 times that. That's a lot of acreage in 2023. And they're not stopping. They just pick a new country or a new state.
Mm.
Well, here you are. Same scenario. Windows, rims, door handles, everything. Beyond a doubt, it's the same thing. I don't know what this little thing was. Maybe a little smart car or a golf cart, maybe.
it looks like a smart car. Yeah.
My God, it's small. And that rim kind of wanted to chunk out, kind of
Mhm.
weird stuff. And there's your trees, no matter where you go. Terrible. Just terrible. Oh, I had another one. Okay. Yeah, fire's coming. And where's the fire coming from? That's when I look up in the air. What was this, a Volvo? I don't know. This could be my last one. And I'll find the paper thin leaves, like a Japanese maple. And that might be on the right here. Paper thin. And no, they're not going to burn up either. Doesn't matter what leaf it is. Doesn't matter what the combustibility rate is or nothing. That's it. That's my last one. I threw all those all together last night and today. Tried to do a little bit of everything.
Some questions that I know the audience would be very interested in knowing, since you've been to so many sites and you've, done so much research. Are there other characteristics of certain areas that you find are more common, like, the mobile home parks? Are there other things that you're kind of noticing?
Generally, it's a poor, well, I can't say it's always a poorer area, but the trailer parks, the mobile home parks,
Mhm.
a lot of high Sierra areas where private citizens own a lot of cabins, their second home, many of them. Clearing that all, and it's patchwork throughout the whole Sierra every year. And the way they're doing it is, in 10 years, there's not going to be any more Sierra Nevada forest the way they're doing it. It's almost like they got a template. And they've done a lot down at Lake Isabella, too. I've been down there several times. But no rhyme or reason, just cities, it's rare to burn a city unless it's the outskirts. Nowhere they would put a mega city.
Like the wildland urban interface. Yeah.
Right. I mean, Santa Rosa, those counties, Lake County, Sonoma County, and the other county, they're attacking it for I don't know how many years. And always a lot of houses. The house counts are huge. And of course, backpacking my whole life, we never heard of forest fires taking houses down. They might go to a mountain pass road and get a couple cabins, and firemen are pretty good at it. They get it out quick. This is the opposite. How many cabins can they burn to the ground and not the forest? But they're working the perimeter around the big cities that'll turn into stack and packs. And even mountainous areas, Greenville, Paradise, they don't really care. They really don't care where they attack. I want to say it's usually poorer people, but that's the mobile homes. A lot of those people are on fixed incomes, retired. They don't have a whole lot of money, and maybe a lot of them have dropped their insurance.
Right.
And that's right. I had something else to say. I have a lot of stories. 2 of them I have to share with you. Was our time okay?
Mm-hmm.
Up in Paradise, when I finally went there about 3 years ago, it was 3 years after the fact. There was an old lady and her husband, and they're weed eating their properties so they don't get a ticket. Well, their house is already eliminated, and they're weed eating whatever's growing. And I didn't tell her what's going on. And I said, anything weird here? She says, well, she's a rock collector. In the back down the hill, she had a little rock garden with lots of quartz and other things like that, shiny shards of quartz and other weird rocks. And she says when she came back, they were all turned into a chalky substance. How about that? Like glass. Into a chalky, that's how she described it, chalky substance. And then another time she comes back, it's all gone. They came in and took all these rocks, if you will, off the property. and she had a wooden telephone pole out front, untouched, a short one, 25 feet tall, a little skinny, like no black on it at all. Nice dry piece of wood with no sap in it. They're not burned. I find dead trees like that. They've been dead for years.
Have you ever seen these materials being moved out?
Not moved. No, you'd have to get there pretty quick and watch and just
Yeah.
be out of the fire area on a main road and just sit there and watch every day with a camera. That's about, and go to the dumps, follow them or something. I want everybody to stay vigilant and see if we can people to watch them and get it out on the media. Educate the public.
But one last question. Is there something that homeowners or you can do? I know a lot of people are going to paint their roof blue.
Yeah.
Is there something that, like, if you feel like your area is at risk? I
think all you can do is buy all these plastic sheds that Lowe's and Home Depot make.
Just get plastic.
And so in the white dog igloos, I make jokes about that, but I'm partly serious. Plastics is about all you can do. Or live underground, and I don't know how deep you'd have to be.
Well, I would say probably plastics and well-grounded metals. I think it was possibly John Lord who pointed out to the carports that were well-grounded were the ones that survived better than the ones that were more insulated from the ground.
Wow.
Yeah.
When I went to Pinnacles, I had a picture here of Pinnacles. I went down there to have breakfast in Denny's. I say this story often. I'm sitting down, and I'll talk to anybody. There's two Army guys with their outfits. I don't know what area, Army, I guess, Marines maybe. And I walked over with my portfolio of all my photos, and they're looking at it, and they both sit up straight, and they kind of looked at each other, and one turns and looks at me and says, looks to me like military grade weaponry. And I closed my book and sat down. And they left, and I went to pay, and the lady says, those guys paid for your breakfast.
Wow.
And that was something that's going to go in my book. So you don't know what these guys see. They're sworn to secrecy, and they get to operate stuff and
just give little messages.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Just dumbfounded when you hear these stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time, Robert, and your expertise and for all the work you do and all the traveling and everything. We really appreciate it.
Hope you got enough.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm sure our audience is a lot more informed now because we get so many questions and I can't answer them. And
yeah, I can't either. I'm trying my best.
But thank you so much for your insight. And hopefully we can have you on again in the future.
All right.
All right.
Good to talk to you both.
All right.
Yes.
So thank you, everyone, for being here. And we will see you all soon.